Okay, welcome to Props Scale Model Aircraft Building. I'm Joel Z. Williams, and I wanted to take this opportunity to show you some new stuff and give you some new tips and tactics that you can use in your scale model building. All right, now I'm going to begin with the idea, the concept of using a tackle box on your workbench as opposed to just having tools all strewn around. This is a good way to help you organize your kit and keep everything handy where you can get it. Now I especially like this model. This is a Plano model. I think it costs about $30. But if you can see, it folds out so that you can really have access to all of your paints, all of your supplies here. Now, I think I said in an earlier model, getting all my tools. I lost all my my hobby kit, so I'm slowly rebuilding it. But I want to take this opportunity to show you that if you're going to start from scratch, you might as well do it right. Do it right the first time. Invest in good quality stuff. That way you're not going to nickel and dime yourself later. Now, a couple things that we've talked about in previous shows is a dedicated sprue cutter. A concept that I think is lost on a lot of people. They think they can get by with just using an X-Acto knife. That will work, but there's nothing better than having one of these handy, and they're flush cut. They will cut right up to the edge of the sprue, making a very good model look sharp. Okay, you're gonna need sandpaper. Now I like this type of sandpaper. This is made by Testers. This is their Model Master version. The reason why I like it is because it doesn't crack when you crinkle it up. Also, you can wash it. You could use a little soap and water when it gets a little filled with plastic. You can reuse it, and they come in a wide variety of grits, and it really lets you get on those curved surfaces. There's no way to get around that. Now, my go-to sanding, and a lot of people, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of comments about this, but I like the trim. Trim makes these really good. These are called Salon Boards, and I find these things to be so handy because they're lightweight. Of course, they're very fine, abrasive on either side, and they usually come with a metal file, which can be you can think of a myriad of uses for that. So this is very helpful. Also, of course, you're going to need your good pliers or good tweezers. I like these the reflexive tweezers, they're called, because they constantly stay closed. You can use these to clamp things, and you don't have to worry about having to readjust it or straining your thumb, keeping it held. It will clamp on its own. Reflexive pliers, tweezers. I think these go for about $10, something like that. Spend the money. Go ahead and get the good stuff. Now, I'm going to talk about glue. I can't find a better glue than this. Bob Smith Industries, I think they're based in California. They make aircraft glue. This is particularly favored by the remote control hobby people because it bonds so tight. Now, this is a super glue. It's a cyanoacrylic. And I use it in conjunction with glue tips made by Zap. Zap will sell you a pack of these for about $3 or $4. And I'm going to go ahead and open them, but I'll show you. You can really put your glue exactly where you want it, as opposed to, and it just pop that on there, and you can get this glue exactly where you want it in a very fine bead. And you can imagine doing cockpits and putting on landing gear. This can be extremely helpful. So I like this particular type. It's the purple one. It's called gap filling medium. A lot of times in model building, you'll have gaps that'll form. Instead of using putty, I like to use the cyanoacrylic, the super glue, because it's still sandable. You can put a good bead on there, let it dry, and then come back later and sand it down, and it fills in gaps. It's really good gap filler. Now, let's talk about these things. Everybody asks me, what are those bamboo sticks with alligator clips on the end of them? What's that all about? These are made by Blue Cell, a company called Blue Cell, and they seem expensive. I think you pay about $10 for these things. And they seem, why would I spend $10 for something like that? And I'm getting ready to tell you why. Because when you're painting, especially when you're using airbrush and things like that, you're going to have a lot of small parts. And one of the best ways to prevent losing small parts, I'll just use this as an example, is to go ahead, when you cut it from the sprue tree, go ahead and put one of these bad boys on there. You'll never lose a part. You'll never lose a part. I can't tell you how many times I've started building a model, left it on my workbench, come back 2 weeks later, and I can't find the landing gear. Where's that wheel? Where's the tail wheel? Where's that little antenna? If you cut the part off the sprue and you automatically, just as a matter of course, you clip whatever individual part, you clip it, you'll never lose it. Okay? And I'm going to show you a little technique I use. Here's a little coffee can that I filled with water. What you do, you take your X-Acto knife, make a little hatch pattern, a little X pattern, make a few of these. Put a little cross hatch pattern in there, one in the middle. Okay, now look at that. You have something you can spray on. It'll hold that part. You can have it at an angle even. It will hold that part and allow you to spray it 360 and not have to worry about it touching something and running the paint. So that is a little tip and trick that I'm giving you for free. Well, let's get back to what I was talking about here. Now, on your tackle box here, I don't want you to scrimp. And one of the things I see a lot of model builders doing is they'll scrimp on their paint mixing. Now, you can get one of these paint mixers. It's a cocktail mixer made by Badger, a company that makes airbrushing. But for about 10, 15 bucks, something like that. 2 AA batteries. And as you can see, you can probably hear it. There's no better way to mix your paint. I mean, let's face it. If you use a toothpick, you're going to be there forever. If you just shake it, whatever, there's not a guarantee that you're going to get an adequate distribution of all the paint and the medium. But with this paint stirrer, just go ahead and spend the money, and get the heartache over. You're going to have enough problems with other things. You might as well not have that problem. It's all about limiting your problems, because invariably you're going to run into problems. So I just want you. I'm showing you tips and tactics to limit your problems. Now, Tamiya. Oh my God, this masking tape, I don't know how I build models before without it. This is a 6mm variety, but this tape is of such a property where it really allows you to get those straight lines. And you're gonna run into instances when, for example, when you put that yellow on that wing, in cases where there's not decals available, you're gonna have to make these really crisp lines, and there's no better way to make those lines than with tape. And you need a tape that's not going to rip off the undercoat or the other paint that's underneath it. And this is a kind of like the paint that the painters use when they come to your house, the blue paint that doesn't rip the paint off the wall. It adheres, but it has a kind of a non-sticky property where it will come off really easy without ruining everything underneath it. Okay, now let's go to the charcoal kit. A lot of people wonder, how do you get those lines? How do you get those panel lines? How do you see that clarity after you all these panel lines? How do you get that to jump off of your model so that it looks like it was pieced together like a puzzle? Well, the way you do it is by using a wash, and a wash is nothing more than dirty water. And you get that water dirty using charcoal. And what you're going to do is you're going to take one of these charcoal crayons, and you're going to shave some of that charcoal using your X-Acto knife. You're going to shave that into a cup of water. Just going to shave it down and make some dirty water. And then you're going to use your paintbrush and go along. You're going to put a little soap in there, a little dish soap. It breaks the surface tension. And when you put that dish soap and dirty water onto a paintbrush and you paint it over the fuselage or the wing of your engine or of your model, it will seek out those little deep recesses, and you'll let it dry, of course, and then you're going to paint over it with your aluminum color or whatever, and that's how you get those really pronounced panel lines. So that's another trick that I wanted to show you here. All right, so we've covered quite a bit today, and I don't want to overwhelm you, but there's one more thing that I think is really important, and I think oftentimes it gets overlooked, and that is the care and cleaning of your brushes. This is made by Mr. Pencil, I think it's called, but it's essentially a brush cleaner. And what you're going to do is put a little bit of water in there, and when you're done at the end of your build, I even do it when I'm building, because I don't want my models to my brushes spend a lot of money on my brushes. And that's another thing. Don't scrimp on brushes. I see a lot of people scrimping on things. There's a couple things that you can get away with being cheap about, but don't do it with brushes. Here are Testors brushes. These are the El Cheapo. I think they're $3 for a pack. These work really good. These are fine utility brushes. You can use these to brush wide swaths of area. You can cover a lot, put a lot of paint across a smooth area very quickly. And I recommend that you get a pack of these. I mean, you can't. They're going to come places where you're going to need them. All right. But I also recommend that you go ahead and spend the money and you get you some quality sable brushes, some natural hair brushes. Now these are made by a company called I think it's Warhammer out of Denmark. But these are the top of the line design brushes, and they're specifically made. You can see this one, it has a 45-degree angle. Don't scrimp here. If you're going to cut corners anywhere, don't cut it with your brushes. You're going to, especially if you're not using an airbrush, you're going to need to get into some really fine places where you're going to possibly, like for example, you might need to paint a face on the eyes on a pilot, or maybe the buckle on their parachute. So you're going to need to get into some really fine spaces, and why not have some good brushes? And I think these brushes here, I think I gave about $10 for these three brushes. Now that may sound expensive initially. That seems like quite an investment, but that's why you're going to get the brush cleaner. That's what I'm saying. If you use the acrylic paint, which I'm now recommending over enamel, I have foregone enamel as much as I can. Enamel requires, the two differences between paint, enamel and acrylic, is that acrylic will clean. This is acrylic. Acrylic will clean up with water, basically. Okay, you don't need anything else. Water and a little bit of this pencil cleaner, this brush cleaner, and you'll be able to get your brush thoroughly clean of any paint. Now, enamel, although it adheres better, and I believe it kind of looks better in some cases, the knock on enamel is you're going to need solvent to get it off. And typically, what people are using now is lacquer thinner. And lacquer thinner, let's face it, it's flammable, it's caustic, it's smelly, it gets on your hands, it turns your skin white. It's not something that you want for smaller children or grandchildren. You don't want them working around that, breathing in those fumes. So for that reason, I think you can pretty much get this very similar look. And I think, there's some model purists that don't use anything but enamel, and that they can have that. But I recommend acrylic for a wide variety of reasons, but probably the number one reason is it's a lot easier to clean up. It's a lot more forgiving. If you get to spill it on something, you can get it out. If enamel, it's game over. Once it's on something, it's pretty much there. So those are what I wanted to talk to you about today, and I'd like you to give me any feedback you can, and let us know if this is working for you, if you have some other ideas or concepts on how things that you would like to see me do. We're going to go ahead and move forward with the primitive build. I think I mentioned that in the last video. I'm getting a lot of feedback from people who are saying, I don't have the money for an airbrush, and I can't afford all that stuff. So what I'm going to try to do is show you how to do it really quickly, really easily, and very cheaply with the bare minimum tools. But like I said, there's some things that I just do not recommend scrimping on. Don't scrimp on your glue. That's that literally holds everything together. If you got to cut corners somewhere, don't do it here. And you're gonna at some point have to get some sandpaper. Now you can scrimp here on this step. You can get some cheaper sandpaper. I just like this because it like I said, it will shake out, it will snap out. It will snap all the debris out of there, and if the debris that won't come out, you can wash it out with a little bit of dishwater. And don't scrimp on brushes. Get you some good quality brushes. A pack of 3 you typically will not cost you more than $10 for some sable, some natural hair brushes. It doesn't matter if it's sable or beaver tail. It doesn't really matter. Natural hair brushes, for some reason, they work better than the polyester or rayon or whatever they use on the synthetic brushes. They don't streak as much when you move the paint over there. Get that, and I think you can scrimp here on the paint stirrer, paint mixer. You can certainly scrimp there. So there's some steps that you can take, but get you some quality paint. If you're gonna do this for any time, some length of time, I've seen people say, well, I got empty paint cans around my house that I used for some project painting a patio chair or something. I'll just spray some of that in the bottom of the can and just use it. Okay, you can do that. I guess you can scrimp on that. But let's face it, if you're going to be in this hobby for any time, go ahead and break down and get the kit, And like I said, I earlier advised that you should go ahead and get you a good quality X-Acto knife. I like the ones that have the non-slip grip here, because I just find that if you're using it a lot, you get your my fingers get kind of tired of that this knurled metal that they have. I don't care for it after a while. So that's really what I want to talk to you about today. And welcome to Props Scale Aircraft Model Building. My name is Joel Williams, and I love it if you guys would like and subscribe to my website. Thank you.